Hello, and welcome to the Vertex Integration into MS Dynamics AX webcast. I'm Lindsay, and I will be facilitating today's session. Our presenters today are Jason Davenport, Sales Tax Manager, Northern Tool and Equipment, Vince Marasco, Partner and Integration Program Manager, Vertex Inc., and Michael Guth, Senior Director of Partner Integrations at Vertex Inc. Before we begin, I'd like to make some announcements. Note the audio options available to you in your invitation. You can listen through your computer or telephone. If you prefer to use the telephone audio, please review your confirmation or the webinar login screen for dial-in details. While viewing the webcast, know the full screen button available to you in the upper right. This button toggles to a full screen view of the presentation. It provides a better view, but just note that you won't see the other pods, such as the Q&A when you're in full screen view, but you can always toggle back and forth. We will offer a PDF of today's presentation at the conclusion of the webcast. This file is provided for future reference. Today's webcast is being recorded, and we will not be opening the phone lines for questions. If you have questions during the presentation, simply enter them into the field in the Q&A pod at the bottom and press enter. Please note that we may not be able to respond to questions until the end of the presentation, or we will follow up by email at a later date. That concludes today's announcements. Let's get started. I will turn it over to today's first presenter, Vince.
Hi, everybody. First, I'd just like to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to sit with us and to review our integration into Microsoft Dynamics AX. I know that everybody's really busy, but I am hopeful that we're going to give you all some good information that lets you understand a little bit more about what the Vertex integration for the AX platform can really bring to the table. So first and foremost, Vertex Tax Links for Microsoft Dynamics AX is really a connection between Vertex O Series and the Dynamics AX platform. What this provides an organization is seamless tax management within the Dynamics platform. You're basically able to leverage the full O Series sales tax functionality within AX. It doesn't require any custom coding, no custom manipulation of the core AX functionality to actually support this. So the connector out of the box really does tightly integrate the Vertex O Series platform and AX. And we support a number of the Dynamics AX platforms like the AX 2012, AX7, as well as Dynamics 365 for operations. So this integration really does target the lion's share of the various AX platforms available. Today, what we're really going to be doing, in a nutshell, we'll be going through the configuration and the feature set of what the connector into AX looks like, and then we'll be turning it over to Jason Davenport from Northern Tool to really put some real-world context around how they're leveraging this integration within their ecosystem. So first and foremost, one of the things that I really want to point out about the AX integration is it's a relatively simple configuration. You're basically able to create and set GL sales tax codes, which trigger tax calculations within O Series. You're able to set up basic Vertex connection settings and any item and customer tax groups, configure the behavior of address cleansing, and then you're able to really start calculating tax very quickly within the AX platform, all while leveraging O Series. So the configuration isn't as laborious as you may have seen with other integrations that have been rolled out in the past. And we've really tried with the AX integration to make sure it's streamlined and simplified in terms of how you configure and utilize this integration between AX and O Series. So the first thing you'll do when setting up the configuration with the Vertex product is set the GL tax code. And what this GL tax code really does is it says that all of the transactions that are associated with this GL sales tax code are going to get set to O Series for sales tax calculation. That's probably the most critical piece of the configuration. Otherwise, if this isn't done, Dynamics doesn't know when to trigger a call to O Series. Once you've done that in the Vertex configuration settings, you basically define which sales tax codes, GL codes, are going to trigger that tax call. As you'll see, we created a Vertex group in the last screen. This screen, you're actually saying that the Vertex group is the one that's going to trigger the tax call. And you can also set any type of default item tax group as well to trigger item class. Then you're able to configure your trusted ID or username and password, as well as the endpoints for tax calculation and address validation. And once you've done that, you can set any type of specific item tax groups that you would like. This allows you to categorize and group multiple products into one product class or one product group. This way you can utilize this to map those particular items to specific product classes inside of O-Series. That way you don't just use the standard TPP rate for everything. You get product-specific taxability. And this is a very nice and simple way of performing that mapping within AX. And you can do the exact same thing for your customer groups as well. You can actually take a list of customers and assign them to a specific customer class or customer group, and what that does is it triggers rules within O-Series as it relates to that specific group of customers. Lastly, and this is one of our most recent enhancements to the AX integration, and it's an area where I think it really does bring a lot of value, and it's something that Jason's going to touch on a little bit later in the presentation, but we're able to leverage O-Series flex fields within the AX interface. And what that basically means is we can map any of the data elements inside the AX tables, including custom fields, to specific O-Series flex fields. This way, if you want to pass in additional information on an order-by-order basis, you can actually map that data element to a Vertex flex field, which gets mapped to a Vertex qualifying condition. What this really means is that any data that you're storing in AX can get passed into O-Series for the purpose of tax calculation. So it really does allow organizations to deal with even the most complex and granular nuances of tax all within their AX environment. And I think, Jason has a lot of real-world examples that he'll touch on of how they're using this within Northern Tool to manage some of those more complicated tax scenarios. And last but not least, you're able to configure and manage the behavior of address cleansing. What makes this really useful is when addresses get passed into O-Series, if you've licensed address cleansing, you're able to actually not just resolve that address to a tax area ID for jurisdiction assignment, but you're also able to correct the address and return a better, more granular address with a full 9-digit zip. And what this configuration screen allows you to do is set a confidence threshold or a confidence indicator so that there's you control the wiggle room, so to speak, on how perfect the address has to be for it to be considered corrected. So in a nutshell, if we look at the feature set at a high level for the integration, we have a sales tax calculation integration for the US and Canada. It's fully integrated into the accounts receivable, free text invoicing, and projects module within AX. It has a tight integration into our address cleansing solution. It has out-of-the-box configuration for simple tax drivers like product ID, product class, customer ID, and customer class, but it also allows you to leverage complex tax drivers to power qualifying conditions using a simple data mapping interface within AX. And there are two additional tools that I don't really think we need to dive into here, but they make it very, very easy to identify any inconsistencies with your configuration to resolve those quickly, such as our consistency check and our onboarding tool set to do the initial product mapping. So overall, this integration has a ton of robust functionality that seamlessly integrates within the AX environment and works to really take all of that tax functionality that would normally have to be managed through custom code and encapsulate it into a standard application offering that integrates with O-Series and Dynamics AX. And with that, I will turn it over to Jason from Northern Tool.
Great, thank you very much. Hi, my name is Jason Davenport, Tax Manager at Northern Tool and Equipment. My history in my world is I actually was a tax technology manager for a Fortune 100 company for about 10 years, and then moved over to Northern Tool, who is a multi-channel retailer, has e-com, manufacturing, retail, and often we deal with several challenging tax rules and regs that exist in today's world. And I'm going to walk you through today about how we actually are leveraging this integration tool to actually solve a lot of our complex business needs. Some of those would include Energy Star sales tax holidays, or potentially WaterSense qualifying items. There's California e-waste fees, how we are managing our tax exemption and also partial exemptions. Speak a little bit about certain item attributes that are key, that I find key to solving some of these critical tax needs. talk a little bit about some battery fees that we have to deal with, and also some fulfillment type ship to home and how we would handle that using the connector. So first and foremost, Energy Star holidays. I know this is a big item that a lot of retailers deal with. The background is, a lot of states offer sales tax holidays for certain weekends out of the year, where certain energy efficient products are tax-free for a weekend. Those may include washers, dryers, etc. So what we are doing to solve this is, as a qualifying condition, we're taking an Energy Star attribute on the item master and mapping this through a flex field in AX. So that will pass a qualifying condition into Vertex, where you can then create a rule to help manage all of your Energy Star sales tax holidays that impact your business. Another neat piece of this too is, in addition to the flex field, there's also things called numeric flex fields that are available in this connector. And this is really helpful if you're in the state of California and you sell items that qualify for the California Electronic Waste Fee. So anything in that state that has like an LCD screen, for the most part, are subject to these fees. So if the screen size is more than 4 inches but less than 15, there's a $5 fee. If it's greater than 15 inches but less than 35, you have the $6 fee. Greater than 35, right? $7 fee. So what you want to do here, and this is actually kind of cool, is you can actually work with your vendors a lot too if you sell these types of products, and they can actually pass these item attributes as part of their SKU information. So you can actually capture the screen size on your item master and map that to a numeric flex field. So with the combination of that and sending that to Vertex, you can actually have Vertex then trigger the appropriate fee that you want to charge your customer. So this is a solution. This is a little bit kind of out of the box, but I think it's kind of neat. And I know a lot of people have a challenge with how they handle tax exemptions and partial exemptions. So we have a tax-exempt software that we leverage, and what we're actually doing as part of this connector is actually passing some key information across, like the customer account, the customer type. So if you have, government or an agricultural customer, and sometimes if you're an ag customer in certain states, you might be subject to a partial exemption of the rate and not the full rate. So we're passing these elements across in these flex fields via the connector and building rules within the Vertex environment to actually handle the full tax exemption as well as the partial exemptions. So in this screen here, I want to talk just briefly about some of the item attributes that exist here. So it might be a little bit hard to see. I'm going to kind of zoom in here right quick, but here you can see within our platform of how we configured some of our screens in the AX environment to include our Energy Star attribute here. Well, this is all in the item master too. A prepaid indicator. So if you are in states and you sell prepaid phone cards, that's another good example where you would need to tell Vertex that this is a prepaid phone and is subject to E911 fees, and as well as a screen size attribute. So most of these things in here that we're capturing will actually be consumed by the vendor when we import their SKUs into our item master. Again, this is another situation that we deal with is we sell a lot of batteries at Northern Tool and Equipment, so it depends on the state that you're in. But Texas, for example, imposes a fee on sale of the new used lead acid batteries. So the fee is $2 or less if it's less than 12 volts and greater than $3 if it's more than 12 volts. So again, here's just another example of how we're leveraging this connector by passing the actual voltage amount in a numeric flex field to Vertex and leveraging that to trigger these fees on the AX platform. So fulfillment type, this is one that if you're a multi-channel retailer, this is something that you may want to think about, especially from how you source products. And a real-world example is if you have a website and you're shipping to maybe do like a free store delivery, and then you also have a customer that is obviously walking into a retail store and purchasing it. So one of the things you want to consider in a scenario like that is you probably don't want to have a difference in a difference in the sales tax rate that you're charging to the customer, right? So if you're on the e-com side, you have an FST to the store, that customer is going to anticipate being charged the same sales tax rate as if they were to walk into the store. If it's different, it creates a very difficult customer experience. So what I like to do, and I think what I find to be is best practice, is from the e-com site, I like to pass the actual fulfillment type, whether it's shipped to home, free store delivery, drop ship, so I can control the situs in Vertex and how I want the tax to behave. So that's kind of a key rule, at least from my perspective, that I like. And then I wanted to just kind of show a quick screenshot of our, like down below in Vertex. This is how what we have kind of initially right now set up in our environment. So we got our tax exempt information here, some item attribute information, fulfillment type. You can kind of see the Energy Star. Source system ID is an interesting one that some people like to do. And that's kind of important sometimes if you are really going through like a large ERP implementation and you might have like a staggered approach or a phased approach, and maybe you want this to behave for, I guess I should say it allows you to control the tax per system if that's something that you'd want to do. And sometimes, a system may not have the same capabilities as another online system, where the one system you want to just charge fees, but the other one doesn't have the other system doesn't have the capabilities to do that. That's where the source system ID actually comes into play. You can actually configure rules around each system separately.
So
with that, I'll turn that back over.
Thank you, Jason. I think that was really a very nice overview of some of the nuances of how you're using the integration within Northern Tool. Some of those specific use cases would be really difficult to tackle without having a means of passing in additional data, and I think that was a really good job of illustrating that, so thank you. So in a nutshell, if we were to take a look at what the Vertex Tax Links for Microsoft Dynamics AX actually does, for one, it's an easy install, a relatively simple setup. It's very, very tightly integrated into AX out of the box. It fully supports address cleansing. It's capable of managing both simple and complex tax scenarios. It doesn't require any customization of core code within the AX environment, and it really does take all of the power of tax and puts it in the hand of the tax department, meaning that you don't have to actually do custom IT engagements or custom consulting engagements to add this functionality into AX. So this really does try to take all of the complex processes that a tax team has to deal with on a routine basis and encapsulate that into standardized functionality that the tax organization can leverage within AX. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions. So we actually just got one question in, and it's related to what this supports. So the first question is, everything shown today was for sales tax. Does this support purchasing transactions? That is a really good question. Right now, the current version of the integration does not support purchasing transactions. That being said, it's on our roadmap, and we're actually going to be releasing an update to this integration in Q2 that supports use tax functionality within the application. Are there any other questions? One more just came in. Can you explain more about which tables are available as flexible fields? So basically, any of the tax tables within, or any of the tables, I should say, within the AX database can be leveraged as a flex field element. So any of that information can be pulled directly out of Dynamics AX and mapped to an O-Series flex field with the UI that we showed the screenshot of in the earlier part of the slides. So basically, any data element can get passed in as part of the transaction. Any other questions?
Oh, I do have one question here that just came in. Question is this connector compatible with which versions of Vertex O series? And the answer to that is yes. It's actually compatible with both version 6 and 7 series that exist today.
Are there any other questions? Well, perfect. Then we don't have any additional questions, but if it's okay if you didn't think of your question on the line, if something comes up later, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll be able to respond to you. Please feel free to send me or Mike Guth or Jason an email, and we'll be more than happy to follow up with you.
Thank you, Jason, Vince, and Mike. This concludes today's webcast presentation. Any questions we did not answer have been collected and will be follow up via email. As a final thank you for participating, we are offering a PDF of the presentation available for download. On behalf of our presenters and Vertex, I want to thank you for your participation today. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.